everyone, welcome back to Grad Girl Rambles. Brianna here with a video about preparing for your first semester of grad school. So at the time of filming this, it is the end of July, so we're going into August, and now is the time that a lot of people start kind of really realizing that, oh snap, I start my program really soon, and there are just a few things that you should probably be doing just to get ready for that. So I'm just going to share my top 5 things that I did before my first semester. So the first thing that I did when I first moved to Michigan, I actually moved in June, so I had a little bit more time to kind of get acclimated to the area. But the first thing that I did was connect with other students in my program. So I had an assistantship with my advisor over the summer, and I had some connections with other students that way. But then I started to meet some other students who were in different cohorts. So if your program follows like a cohort model where there's just like a group of students who come in together and you kind of travel through the program together. There were some students who were in cohorts above me that I got to meet, and it was really cool. Some of them were working on my advisor's other research, so we kind of talked about like what his style was like and things like that. And then others, I kind of just met with them like socially, just getting to know people. I think at the time when I moved here, The Bachelorette was airing, and so there were other students in the program who also watched The Bachelorette, and they usually watched it together, but because I met them, they invited me to watch it with them as well. So like getting to know the people in your program, whether you're getting to know them, like academically or just personally, I think is a really good idea. And while it's important to know people in your program, I think it's also important to know people who are not. So for people who are working and starting grad school, you're always going to have people who are not in your program who are still in your life. So you have your, if it's in a city that you were already living in, you probably still have a connection to like your friends, your family, your coworkers. But for me, I moved to a completely different state. I don't have family or friends here in Michigan. So it was also important to kind of get involved with a community outside of my program. So that could look like finding a grad student organization within your university. So it's not specific to your program, but it is kind of, you still have kind of like that academic community, but you're not talking about your specific program all the time. Or even just, going out and doing things in your city, your town, and meeting people that way. It's really important to have people in your corner who are not always talking about academics and your program, and who are able to support you more in your personal life, because sometimes just having those people who are only in that academic setting, that can be a really overwhelming feeling of not being able to kind of set that boundary for, okay, this is school related things, these are my friends, these are my family, this is personal. Like, it's really good to have that separation when you can. Something that is really important to me is organization. So I really like to stay organized in a couple different ways, but trying to either find some kind of system, it might be hard to do that before the semester actually begins. But personally for me, I use a physical planner. I like to write things down. I like to have something physical that I can carry with me, that I can also take notes in. But then I also use the calendar that's attached to my university email. So we use Outlook. So I've basically used the Outlook calendar, but I've integrated my Google calendars into it so that I can have all of my things in one spot. I like to use both. I like my web-based calendars because you can set reminders, you can, recurring things. And I like my personal physical planner just because it also gives me kind of like a creative outlook. It also gives me kind of a creative outlet. Creative outlook? No. I also like using my physical planner because it gives me like a creative outlet. So for me, and I'll be doing a video about this later, but just kind of in general, I do plan out my week. So Sunday night, I'll, write out everything that's happening that week that I know of. And when it comes to my planner, I'll like write everything down, but I also do like that planner stuff. Like I like to, do the washi tape and the stickers and the colors and blah. So I just like have a lot of things that I use for that. And speaking of like supplies and planners and things like that. Now would be a really great time to get in on those back to school sales. You know, they're not just for elementary students. Everything's on sale for everyone. And I am a lover of all types of pens. I love very specific pens for like writing notes. I have specific pens for things in my planner. I love colorful things. I love erasable pens. I will buy any erasable pen, and I don't know why, but I've been really into it since middle school when they used to be those like really bad like paper mate erasable pens. But just kind of stocking up on that stuff and kind of taking the time to kind of figure out what works for you. So it might not happen before the semester begins because you haven't started yet. But you'll notice as you're taking your classes in the first couple of weeks, you'll notice what kind of method of note taking works best for you. So my first year, I was typing all of my notes. I was using OneNote, so everything was kind of, you know, in its own notebook and blah, 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 blah. And I still like organizing it that way. But I didn't like only typing them. You know, I like to write things. I like to be able to annotate like PDFs and files that our professors share. So I also ended up investing in an iPad, so I can type my notes. I have one of the cases with like a little keyboard, and so I can type my notes if I want to. I can write them in because I bought the Apple Pencil with it. So I just like being able to have, you know, kind of the different modalities for my notes. And then also, like I said before, it is still August by the time you see this, but professors usually and instructors don't have their syllabi available until right before the semester begins. But once you do get it, you want to take note of any course materials you would need. A lot of the times there'll be books on there, and some of the books you'll probably need throughout your time in your program. Some of them you literally only need for that one class. So like I said, connecting with people in your program, I would definitely check with them, see which books they still have, see if they're willing to lend you any books. Ask them what books you think are the best to buy. So for me, I didn't buy all of my books the past 2 years. I bought a lot of them the first year because I figured a lot of those books were ones that I personally wanted to have in my library, like the best practices books for school psychology. It's a 4-volume set. They are pretty expensive, but I have a feeling I will probably use them for a while, and if not, I can always pass them on to somebody else. So check in with those other students, see what books they have, see what books are really necessary to buy, and then if you don't need to buy them, you can either rent them, you know, through some kind of borrower, or check out your library's interlibrary loan system. I checked out a lot of books that didn't come from my university's library. A lot of them actually came from Ohio or like the University of Michigan. But it's great because it's free and you don't have to like renew the books every, you know, 2-3 weeks. Usually grad students, at least in my university, can hold them for like 4 months, which is enough for a whole semester. And then the last thing that I wanted to highlight is knowing your resources. When I was an undergraduate, I had no idea what grad students were doing. I didn't know where they were. I don't know that I met more than 5 who I didn't work directly with, but I think a lot of the times we forget that we're still within the same university. So the resources that are available to undergraduate students are usually still available to graduate students. So, you know, don't think that just because you're separated by where your program is housed within a certain building, or, you know, because nobody in your program talks about certain resources, they're still available to you. So some of those resources are like, you know, the writing center on campus. As an undergraduate, I would take my writing there if I needed a little help with writing a paper or something. You can do the same thing in graduate school, and they know that graduate students come there, so what they're able to help you with is a little bit different than maybe when you're an undergrad. Or, you know, the health center. If your program, if you are eligible for insurance through your program, you likely have access to the health center on campus, and you usually don't have a bunch of those fees that you may have had as an undergrad if you didn't have the university's insurance there. CAPS, if you need counseling or psychological services, they are there for you as well, and a lot of them can refer you out to the community if either they're not able to meet the needs of what you need, or if they if you just need a reference elsewhere. So take a look at all those like brochures and pamphlets that are probably being mailed or emailed to you. A lot of them are going to look like junk mail or junk email, and they might be, but don't forget that you have access to a lot of that information, and you should definitely use it to your ability. And also, a lot of universities, not all, have graduate student unions. So take a look at that, see what it covers, see what they offer. Some of them are, like at my university, I'm technically, I think I'm technically not a member of the union because the union covers TAs and I'm an RA. So just kind of look for what that means at your university. Sometimes they might have like some kind of like small coverage for you as a student, but there's a lot of talk about grad student union. So if your university has one, definitely check it out and see what they can offer you. And then this one isn't really like a way to prepare, but just going into your first semester, I think something that I was really worried about was not knowing things, but the whole point of graduate school is to learn. So you don't have to know everything. It's okay that you don't know everything, and nobody in that room knows everything. Your professors don't even know anything. I found in the first couple of years that we were teaching our professors things as much as they were teaching us. So asking questions is really important. Don't be afraid to ask questions or ask for clarity if you don't know, because asking questions is how you learn. So that is all that I'm going to share today. Just 5 things I think are pretty important, kind of that month before you start to kind of think about and keep track of. So I hope this is helpful, and I hope you all enjoy your first semester, and I'll catch up with you later. Bye.